they were taking away a profession that I'd grown to love. And it was just being bastardised into certificates and conferences, and we were just done. So we decided, it actually happened, we were at a conference in Greece, and Peter is really like heavy on project management. You know, he's written loads of books, he's sort of up there in sort of like project management megastar. And I was like, but everything you talk about is basically bollocks.
So, Susie,
Hiya.
Welcome to Warrington.
Thank you very much.
Have you been here before?
About 15 years ago.
Good experience, bad experience?
It's Warrington, love.
Fair enough. I'm talking like I live here, but still welcome you here anyway. So, Susie, founder of Everyday Change, who provides really smashing change leadership. But apart from your LinkedIn title, who is Susie Palmer-Trew?
Well, I'm a mum. Mum to Harry, wife to Nikki. I am a fledgling triathlete, she says with confidence, having failed to actually complete any in the past 5 years. That's not the point. Ambitions to do an Ironman when I'm 40, hit Bolton up with some sporting endeavours. But that's ultimately what I am. A lot of the stuff I do is about my work. I think and act change is, unfortunately for my family, everything about me.
Where was Everyday Change born from?
It was literally born from the back of a really, really shit meeting when we were fed up with how we were being talked to, how we were being treated, and what was happening in the world around us. So we decided that there had to be a better way. And Everyday Change came out of it, slowly but surely. 3 years later, here we are. We reckon it works. It does what we want it to do, and it allows us to work in a way that we choose. So smashing for us.
And what does it do?
What does it do?
Yeah, what does it look like? What, like if someone was to engage Everyday Change, like what would the elevator pitch be, and what do you provide, services, etc.?
So I would describe us as a not quite a consultancy, because ultimately we are a consultancy, but we try and act in a way that we're your partner, a critical friend. We're more of your mate down the pub rather than a big four telling you what you should and could do. Everything we do is around building capability in organisations. It's about your people. Everything starts with the individual, and then we try and scale out to an organisation. So start with you, start personal, get bigger.
And for those who would struggle to understand change management, including me, because it's quite a broad term, and people call themselves change agents, and that goes for in change management and in the Agile community and in project management. What is the Susie summary of change management? What is it?
So change management for me, I suppose it's full of so much bullshit, but ultimately it's taking you from where you are now to where you want to be. And that's as a journey. It's as possibility. It's about being open to a bit of adventure, probably more misadventure than you would like. But it's definitely about a transition state. So it's not around methodology and processes and slide decks. It's about understanding who you are as an organisation, who your people are, where you want to go to, who you want to be when you grow up, and how you're going to get there.
And what factors do people sometimes miss out on? You mentioned methodologies and PowerPoints and stuff. Like what are the fundamental things when you go into an organisation that you'll focus on, you and your associates?
It's understanding the actual organisation, because so many people rush in to consultancy, to methods, to processes, thinking that they actually know what they're doing. And I massively don't mean that unfairly, but you think you know your organisation until you try and change it. So a lot of what we do is get people to be really close to their context, to understand like their histories, their shared histories, where the divergences are, who they're made up of, what that looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like. Because some days you tell yourself that your organisation has, culture X, and you ask it to change, and you're like, oh shit, this is not who we thought we were, or it's not who our people are. Yeah. So a lot of it is starting with them, because I say it all the time, but change is massively personal. So unless you know who you are, you're not going to be able to change it.
And is that where the Everyday Change workshop comes in? Have I given that the correct title?
Yeah. Excellent drop. So the Everyday Change workshop is it's like a submersive day. So we have a structure that we work to, but it's about opening up a conversation about how we change and what change is and what it means to us as individuals and organisations. Everything about it is normal, which probably takes away some of the fun, I guess. Takes away the tagline, but it's about having normal conversations about really complicated things. And I guess that's where the everyday comes from, because what we do is trying to be massively casual. Like, change should be scary, because what you're trying to do should be big, and it should be ambitious, and it should be exciting no matter how big or small you are. But doing it in a way where you can talk about it in words that you understand with people that you know in a way that feels accessible is everything that the day is about.
And how does it must be interesting for you because they're public, right? Some of them, obviously bespoke if you've got a client. But I always say you could get a group of people in an engineering organization. This is from an Agile point of view. And from a financial services organization, put them all in a room and they probably have the same issues. Is that the same, or is it quite difficult with the nuances? Are people nervous because they're coming from, don't know each other in different industries?
So a big thing that we do is we don't let people talk to each other in the first instance.
Okay.
I don't mean that in some sort of like weird like keys in a bowl sort of scenario, but when we introduce
You'll
each
have more
other,
sign-ups from that.
when we introduce each other, we talk about who we are in terms of like your name and your background and your family. We don't do organisations and we don't do job titles, in part because like as humans we're just inherently biased.
Yeah.
So if your organisation calls you a manager and you're sat next to a director,
the hierarchy kicks in straight away.
Imposter syndrome will start to come out. People start to be defensive, or they don't open up in a way that we want them to. So then the room doesn't get the value, and the individual doesn't get the value. So we try and avoid, talking about credentials and stuff and things that you can measure against each other in order to keep people as open as possible.
And how long have they been going for, these workshops?
So we've been running them for 3 years. We've just relaunched a refreshed version because like at my heart, at the core of Everyday Change is a lot of academic research and joy and lots of work with universities and lots of academic study that we do. So we basically iterate it every 12 months based on the research that we've undertaken to inform what we do and have it so it's based on actual evidence rather than somebody else's textbook.
And do you have to adjust your own behaviour in these workshops, or are you just you? I think I know the answer.
I would like to say I'm just me. There are moments when you have to adjust how you deliver. So recently all of my workshops run to a playlist, a Spotify playlist, which is basically horrendous trash music.
Is that a public playlist?
It can be a public playlist, but it's the music that I like, that I work to, and I set the pace based on the soundtrack. So if Girls Aloud is playing, for instance, I'll know where I am and what I should be doing and what should come next, and it helps me keep my pattern without clock watching or sort of like testing where we are or checking the time for lunch and that sort of stuff. But recently I was in a session where somebody actually struggled with background noise. Okay. So the ask was to turn off the music, as it were. And instantly that changed how I delivered because my pattern was then controlled by a different mechanism and a different person's needs. And that was quite hard to adjust to. But fundamentally you get sort of the rough diamond me that's currently talking to you.
Yeah. I like it. Everyday Change, Everyday Agile. Probably says something about us both. Have there been any epiphanies or pennies dropped that you can share with us from people who have attended? And they've messaged you after on LinkedIn and said, you know what, I've gone back, I've done this, this really hit home.
I think the biggest thing for the sessions is normally the clarity that it gives somebody. Because basically what we're doing is we're saying, leave your day job, come away, spend a day with us, talk about something that you're worrying about, something that you're planning, something that you're struggling with. Talk about it in a way that is supportive, that enables you to test ideas, to seek opinions of peers. We can do it using, we do use models and theory and ideas. We focus everything around tangible takeaways. So you come with a problem and a worry or a moment that you need some support with, and you leave with something that you can like turn into something real.
Yeah.
And that's normally, that's the best bit. And it's not the day after the workshop, it's the 6 months, 6 weeks after, when somebody goes, that thing we talked about, just done it.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And I have to do my best to not reply with, told you so, full stop.
And when you go into organisations, how do you ensure you don't become part of the furniture as outsourced help? Because I could learn from that, and I'm sure people listening could, or watching could as well.
I am still learning that. I don't get it right all the time. I massively don't get it right all the time. But I try and operate a bit of a nanny McPhee. So normally, quite often, especially, so loads and loads of my work is in public sector. So loads of stuff with like universities, education, colleges. And when you turn up, the first response to a consultant is, oh, bad news, probably going to be a restructure. Can we not do our job? So the first line is literally defence. So it's normally quite hard to get into an organisation. And it's that moment when somebody's pleased that you're there, that they start to lean on you probably a little bit harder than what they have done, where they want you to stay, which is normally the trigger point for you to make a plan to leave.
Yeah.
And I think probably because of how I work, and from my own experience of consultants, you know, some of my mates think it's ironic that I'm now a consultant because I bloody hated him. You know, I spent years having consultants work at me, throw things to me, you know, disable my teams, take away what we were doing. And now to be one of those people, I try not to be that and not create that experience. But sometimes that does create a bit of an over-reliance.
But do you think that is because you haven't worked for one of the big dogs, unless you have, and I'm massively wrong.
No.
But do you reckon it's because you haven't been, I'm not going to say bred in that way, but you haven't been gone through that process of working for one of the big players and getting into the habits that those individuals may have?
Yeah, well, I haven't ever worked for them, but I think part of it is I've seen something that I didn't like, saw something that I thought I could fix, and I'd like to fix it in a way that is me, not in a way that is somebody else. And that's why, to be honest, I only work with people that I like, because some organisations, they want a big four, or they look to a smaller consulting to get a cheaper big four, or something that they feel is slightly more, you know, disposable. And I don't choose to work with those people, so I tend to be quite picky. So I probably say no to more clients than what I say yes to, which I always get told off with my wife because she's like, should we not be doing that? Yeah. But actually for me, it's more important to get the relationship right, to have the impact that you want, and then to exit stage right as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Spoke about change management, but you also have written a book, or co-written a book, I should say, called Project Management is Bollocks.
Yeah.
So my question is, like, why is project management bollocks? Or is it all bollocks? Or?
It's all, it's project management is all bollocks. Yeah, I wrote it with a pal, Peter Taylor, a few years back. And it was written because we got so bored with, you know, big organisations forcing certain ways of thinking and doing, of making project management out to be some sort of mythical beast that only the elite could do, that, you know, they were taking away a profession that I'd grown to love. And it was just being bastardised into certificates and conferences. And we were just done. So we decided, it actually happened, we were at a conference in Greece, and Peter is really like heavy on project management. You know, he's written loads of books. He's sort of up there in sort of like project management megastar. And I was like, but everything you talk about is basically bollocks, because project management should be good people trying to get good stuff done, and literally nothing more than that. So then we basically decided to write about it. So we tried to tackle some of like the myths, like, you know, tackle some stuff around like stakeholders and resistance and what you need to get the job done. And we tried to write it probably for me when I was 20, not me when I'm not quite 20. For the, you know, the early entry, early career, and the people that just want to challenge their own expectations. So we wrote it more for the laugh and the challenge than anything else.
Because it's quite provocative. Did you get any feedback that you weren't prepared for, or were you quite happy to receive? Like,
I'd never written a book, so I never really expected any feedback, to be honest. I sort of expected just to fizzle. We got some great stuff. We did some great engagements. We did some brilliant conversations and podcasts. And then we got my favourite review on Amazon, which, feel free to go and look at it, which basically says this book is written by two mates that were pissed.
I think I've seen that.
And I was like, fair. Because actually it was written by two mates, and it was written by two mates talking about something that they cared about in a way that they wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
Which is only a bottle of wine short of the review. So, you know, part of me read it and I was like, I think I might have a little cry. And then I just was like, that's the sort of reviews I want, because that's what we want people to know.
Yeah.
We want them to know it came from a good place. We want them to know it's supposed to be rough and ready. And we want them to know that it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And it's there in all of its 1-star glory.
And what was the writing process? Did you just have a Google Doc, or was it meetings? How did you go about that?
We did quite a lot of conversations. So I just had Harry. So Harry was like 6 weeks old when we started writing. Okay. So I did most of my writing sat in Wetherspoons, because it was the only space that I could get away.
Can't go wrong with a spoon's breakfast.
Yeah, spoon's breakfast and a glass of Pinot at half 8. Yeah, and then Peter sort of led some of the conversations. So he sort of structured the questions, and we recorded them. So pretty much like this. We recorded a conversation and then translated it and then made it into some actual coherent sentences. Yeah. We worked with Routledge, so they nailed the editing process. So it feels like, it's a bit proper.
Would you do it again?
I definitely, I'm currently writing a new book.
Okay.
But I'm not.
What? Please expand.
Casual segue.
Clang.
Nobody knew about that. But I'm not doing it through Routledge, so I'm self-publishing.
Okay.
In part because I want it to be more accessible. So I want to, sell it for a £5 and not for 30 quid.
Yeah.
And it's basically it's change management in 30,000 words, give or take. I say that I'm only on 5,000 words now.
Is that the working title?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't got a title yet. I'll Google some titles. But again, it's about taking everything that I know from an academic perspective and everything that I know as a professional practitioner and all of the stories in between and doing a combination of problem solving, myth busting, and then using some of the workshop feedback to create some of the content. So we, as part of the workshop, we play a game of cards, which ask questions. So we've been asking questions for 3 years and we've got, 5,000 answers from everybody who's not me. So a big portion of the book is around the people who are changing and their experiences of it. A bit of a, sort of what you'd like to have been told 5 years ago sort of set up.
How did you even get into project management? If we could go back to who was Susie in school, was like STEM a thing? No. Did you was IT the foot in the door? Like, did you work in what was the? So,
well, like, go like all the way. I was a little geek when I was at school, spent most of my sort of primary school and in secondary school as a librarian. I was up there with the top kids.
Yeah. With the ginger kids.
Yeah, all sat inside hiding from the sun.
Yeah.
I went to university. I went in through clearing, so I didn't mess up my A-levels. I just wasn't actually that clever. So I actually got into Lancaster University, stayed there, bummed around in my degree, did some work with the student union, and then when I was leaving, the director of estate said, "Before you go, can you do 6 weeks worth of work?" And I was like, "Yeah, it can't be that hard." So I basically worked with them then for 3 years as a project manager in construction. So I started in construction, not in IT, and I'm actually a qualified scaffolder. So I actually started as a scaffolder.
You come around my house. I've got work going on at the moment.
Before I moved into PM, and then I made an absolute stupid move of chasing cash. 25-year-old me chased some money down to Milton Keynes and worked in IT for a few years, for probably the worst company I've ever crossed paths with.
Yeah.
And then I decided that there was more to life, and I wanted to change how we were doing it and how it was working, and then sort of took off from there, and project turned into change and changed it into consultancy, I guess.
Yeah. We're all on a journey with this sort of conversation, and I know you'll give me feedback on if I ask this question correctly, but were there any barriers to getting into a potentially male-dominated industry at that time? And what were those barriers, and what would you tell yourself now that you didn't know back then?
I think there's it's when you're young, and I'm talking about not you, but when I was young, it was really easy for me to take umbrage with what I was told and to let people tell me that stuff wasn't possible. And at the time, and we're talking 15 years ago now, the barriers that we talk about now quite openly, they weren't a thing. It was just how it happened.
Yeah.
You could expect to go on a building site and to be wolf whistled or heckled, or because that was what happened. You could expect to go out with consultants and for inappropriate things to be said, and it was all just brushed under the carpet because it's construction, don't you know?
Yeah.
And I think at the time, I would tell myself that it's not right, and it's not fair. But the counter to that is also just chill out a little bit. Because I sweated when I was younger to impress and to move quickly and to progress through what I was doing because I thought I should be better.
Yeah.
And whether that was because of the environment that I was in, I'll never know. But I think if it's not right and you don't like it, open your mouth. And as for everything else, just chill the fuck out a bit.
Yeah. I think it's getting better, in your opinion.
I think it's different. So I think one, the fact that we talk about it, the fact that people are aware of it, I think it's loads better. I do think, especially younger females, the world of microaggressions and barriers that people aren't too sure. Has that just happened? Is that what you meant? And we make excuses, especially for older generations and granddad territory and dad territory. I think there's we make excuses for older people because that's how it's always been. But my experience is it is better. It is different. I don't feel like I now compete from a gender perspective. I now compete for competency.
That's good.
Which is good for me and hopefully good for others.
Flipping it back to change and change management, project management, Agile to a certain extent. Actually, what are your thoughts on Agile? Because I've directed it in terms of your arena, but
Somehow, part of me doesn't have an opinion because it's just a way of doing stuff. And some days it works and some days it doesn't.
yeah.
I think Agile as a thing likes to create its own drama a little bit in terms of like which type, which flavour, which direction, how quick, like capital A, non-capital A. And I think there's a lot of bluster around it, but it's probably the same bluster that project management had in a traditional sense and what change management hasn't had. So I think there's a maturity in terms of the conversations, but you know, it works if it's pitched in the right organisation, context, right support.
Yeah. So
keeps you busy.
Yeah. Yeah. So we touched on this earlier before, but we'll go a bit deeper if that's okay. Where do organisations go wrong in terms of change? Now, big broad umbrella, you can go in whichever direction you want. And what are the real specific reasons for that from what you've seen?
I think it almost goes back to one of my earlier points of like, it's about knowing who you are as an organisation, because people try and change something that they don't understand. And at which point you physically cannot change it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first barrier that most organisations will hit. The second will be when people try and change a culture by initiating a project or a transformation.
Yeah.
You can't change people in that way. You know, the culture is the lifeblood of your organisation. You don't change that by cracking out an email that says on Tuesday we're going to feel differently.
It's like when, sort of from an agile point of view, we're going to copy the Spotify model.
Yeah.
Well, mate, you're a financial services. You're not a music streaming, platform. You can't carbon copy one culture from another. I can't copy in a previous life. I can't copy a ship's culture into the corporate world, because if I go in the office and call someone a C-bomb, that's not going to go down very well. In the Navy, that's a term of endearment. So you can't copy one culture from one thing to another.
From a practical way, it's time. Because everyone thinks you have to change quickly. Well, you don't.
Yeah.
Yes, don't get me wrong, there might be a compliance problem, there might be some sort of drama, but that's not a change, that's a response to a fire. Let's compartmentalize a little bit. Like, people try and change and they try and run quickly, and then you miss the date or the moment or the instance, and then everybody is sad and everything has failed and everyone should go home.
Yeah.
But if we think about change and go, add 20% to it, it becomes instantly easier, more palatable, more doable, more sustainable and gentler. And that's where the good stuff comes. And 20% arbitrary, but
and
give to get.
It's your triathlon point before. It's like slowing down to speed up to a certain extent. Like you have to build a base at a lower heart rate, because there's no point going like the clappers. Yeah. Because you're just gonna
will die.
Your lung and heart efficiency translated to an organisation or efficiency, you need to build that base before going right. We're turning change on. And it's same as Agile. Limit work in progress, slow down to go faster, do less to do it better. Like all of the things. So don't do as much as what you think you should be doing now, because you don't need to. Yeah. So us having the conversation at this table sounds dead simple, which doesn't mean it's easy. Why are we still having these conversations, do you think?
Because I don't think we're having these conversations. Okay. And that's not like a chicken and egg of response, because I think part of it is you can join an organisation. So if I join an organisation, there is a high chance they have already decided on their change and on their pattern, and they have hit a problem. Or they realise they don't have the capability to do the thing they have already decided that they're going to do. Oh, yeah. And I think part of it is when, especially as consultants, when you join an organisation, is being trying to get them to go back to the beginning, to test that decision, to understand that plan, and then decide whether we should go again. I've worked with an organisation for the best part of a year. Month 1, I said it's broken. It's not going to work. Yeah. Month 12, it's broken. It's still not working. And that's my opinion. And people can take it or not, but it doesn't change if you're not going to fix it.
Yeah.
And I think being able to get organisations, whether they're the heads of or the people within, to say, is it right? Does it work? Does it fit? Does it meet our needs? Do we know our people well enough to make this decision? Before we make the decision, it's different. Agile delivery. Let's do less. Let's reduce how much we're putting into a sprint. Let's reduce our velocity. Let's throw more people at it. we try and fix the symptoms. We don't fix the causes.
Yeah. That's something I went through last year, and it'd be interesting to get your take on it. How do you know when it's time to cut the cord and say, do you know what? I've given my opinion. You've come to me for help. I haven't sort of inflicted myself on your organisation. You're not listening. Let's shake hands. How do you know when that's the point?
Oh, I've done it twice, I think. So once it was done to me in terms of we're just not going to listen, so you might as well go.
Yeah.
Which is, fine. Went to Ibiza. And then the other time was when I was working with an organisation and they were trying to change how I worked. So they would so they would take the advice and play it back with their slant on it, which was therefore not the advice anymore.
Yeah, but you were still...
But I was still on the hook for said advice. And I was like, look...
Susie said.
Yeah. And it was like, when you argue with a sibling. But Mum said, I was like, well, that's not what I said. And if that's what you've heard, then you're not listening.
Yeah.
And we just ended it, and I probably was messy than what it needed to be. There's probably a bit of umbrage and, everyone was a bit grumpy about it. But if it's not working and I'm not going into an organisation and loving what I'm doing and having the conversations that I want and seeing the other people spark because of what we're doing, then that's not what I signed up to. So I'll get my handbag.
Is there anything you've changed your mind about recently? And it could be in terms of work, life, that you never thought you would?
So part of it is like probably a counter to that, because I'm trying to nail down the things that are mine.
Yeah.
Whether that's like tolerances or like opinions, because I blame the workshop and I blame the conversations and I blame the research that we do for it, because most of my time, when I'm not in a consultant capacity, I'm doing a doctorate, so I'm basically proving and disproving myself wrong on a continual basis. So I'm trying to nail down the things that I care about from a change perspective, and then let everything else go, rather than trying to fixate and fix lots and lots of things. I'm trying to sort of focus on a few key areas. But I think in terms of what I've changed my opinion on most recently is the role of goals in what we do. Yeah. So you'll get, especially from a project perspective, quite a lot in change. It'll be like big stuff, like let's always chase the end goal. Let's fight for the end goal. Everything we do is about what happens in, June 2024.
Yeah. And
everything is about that. And there's a giant flag and everyone's running at it. And when we do that, it becomes more and more clear the more work I do, the harder it is to actually deliver anything, because no one knows about this month, next week. Sandra in accounts doesn't care about what happens in June 2024 because she's retiring. Dave he's delivering the project, he's on a fixed term contract, he's only got 6 months left. He doesn't care about what happens then. So it's about having goals that people recognise from an individual team and then organisation level, and letting people chase the thing that they need rather than telling them what to chase. It's less carrot and stick and more, pick your own thing.
When you talk about research and going after your doctorate, for someone who isn't that academic, I'm talking about me, not them who are watching, what does that look like? What do you mean by research and stuff?
Yeah, okay, so probably to your point, like I'm not actually that academic. So like from an academic credential perspective, like I've been pretty casual. Like I'm in the 2-2 category of degrees, like distinctly average, but willing to learn and grow and challenge. So a doctorate is very much around proving or disproving something. Yeah. So I'm looking at the relationship between organisational change and trauma. And when I say trauma, I'm not talking like car crashes. At the heart of trauma is this concept of cope capacity, where basically as humans, we get to a point when we just can't do anything else. And we've hit that ceiling. And it's the relationship about how change expedites us exceeding that capacity. What happens when we get there in terms of change delivery, change responsiveness, change capacity, and then what happens to us as humans and how we can recover. It sort of explores the concept that basically organisational change is ruining organisations because it's killing our people. Right. Not literally killing, sorry, no one's been harmed as far as I'm aware. So that's what I'm trying to prove. I prove it, one, by working with organisations who let me explore the trauma that they're creating. Yeah. We don't often talk about it as trauma within an organisation, but we look at the work that they're doing and how it's affecting their people and their people's ability to do.
Is that the same as change fatigue, or is that different?
It's probably different. Change fatigue.
Or is that just a made-up word?
I hate change fatigue. Same as I hate resistance, but they're probably stories for another day. Change fatigue is the concept that too much change means that you don't want to engage with more change.
Yeah.
When realistically, the likelihood is that the change is shit, or how the organisation's going about it is shit, and change fatigue is a really great excuse to keep banging the same drum.
I'll stop using that word.
But I've got that's probably an entire other podcast for that.
Does that mean we can start calling you Dr. Change once you've done it?
Yeah, well, I'm probably just going to cut straight to Dr. PT, I reckon. And I'm trying to complete it before I have to renew my passport.
Okay,
because then I can be a doctor in my passport.
Yeah. Does that mean your wife has to go? Yeah, your wife's going to have to call you a doctor.
Yeah, like everyone will have to call me doctor.
It's a LinkedIn profile, Dr. Change.
Yeah. So why are you doing a doctorate? So people call me doctor. Because you can buy a title as a lady, but you can't learn a doctor.
How long does it take? Where are you on it now?
Like millions of years.
Okay.
It's going to take probably about another 3 years to come out with as a doctor.
A doctor in what as well?
So it's a doctor in business administration. So I'm not saving lives anytime soon.
Is there a doctor on the plane yet?
I'd be like, yes, I'm happy to answer any of your organisational change problems. I can help. So it'll take about 3 years to get there, but I'm doing it what's called, so it's a DBA, so Doctor in Business Administration. So it has to come out with I say product, so that's probably not the right word, but it has to come out with a solution. So it can't just be theory.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So technically, in 5 years' time, you'll be like, oh, well, we can apply the Palmer-Trew model to this.
Yeah.
So I'll become one of those people that people bash on LinkedIn because they think the idea is shit. So when I get to there, that's basically what I want to do. I want to get trolled on LinkedIn and be called a doctor.
I like it. I look forward to seeing that and ripping those slides off one day. If you were talking to your younger self, what advice would you give them? Sort of touched on it before, but...
Calm down, love.
Calm down.
There's time. There's time for everything.
Mm.
And you don't have to do it all. Work out what you want to be later. Adventure. Have fun. Make mistakes. Make loads of mistakes. Learn from them, preferably really quickly, and never make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
What make them?
Fair enough.
Have a laugh.
When are you relocating to Ibiza?
It's like
when can I come to the villa?
Yeah. So like next we're going to try and do 6 weeks next summer.
Okay.
That's the plan. So everyday change takes on Ibiza. Not I'm taking all my staff to Ibiza.
I'm going to say you're doing a retreat.
Yeah.
Everyday change boot camp in Ibiza.
Yeah, and it'll be for you, me, Nikki and Harry. So yeah, it'll be great. I'd love to. Like 3 years is my is the current ambition to move to Ibiza properly.
Oh really? Like proper?
Oh yeah.
Gonna do it?
Absolutely.
Is that a you plan or a you plan?
I know, like it's a team plan. Yes,
okay.
So Nikki's a personal trainer, so we want to move her out, get her a CrossFit box.
Oh, she'll smash it out there with all the
trendy kids,
all the hipsters.
And then I'll live in a little villa with a swimming pool, and you can ring me, and I'll just be splish splashing, having a great time.
Business wise, what's next? What's on the path?
Ideally more of the same. We've had a great, so we've been around for 3 years. In earnest, we've been going sort of pretty hard for the past year, and it's been brilliant. We're working with some great people. We want to keep working with those types of people. And we want here all week, aren't you? But also to be able to see the impact that we're having. Yeah. It's great to be able to bring people in. We're pretty small. It's me. We've got Jan is my only full-time employee. We've got a handful of associates, but to see the ripples into organisations when people normalise some stuff that people are told to be scared about is pretty incredible. So more of the same, ideally, more of the same from Ibiza. Yeah,
okay. Is there anything left in the year in terms of any more, what we nearly September, like towards now in December, is any big ticket items that you want to achieve?
So we've got another book. I've got another book coming out, which hopefully will be before Christmas, and then we'll be hitting the workshops again, sort of autumn time. We did plan to run some over the summer, but it seems that everybody else is in Ibiza. So we've taken a break. Everyone's shipped out for August, and now we're just hanging out with our families and our bikes. It's probably just me hanging out with my bike, and my family doing other stuff. And we'll probably just roll with the punches for the next few months. And
when is the triathlon? We got a date, or is it just the?
It's the end of October. End of October.
How's the training going for that?
It's all right. Yeah, it's relative. If I put more effort in, I'll probably get better results. But I say that because the past 3, so I've had pneumonia, I've torn a ligament, and then my bike fell off the back of our car for my past 3 triathlons.
Not on the motorway, hopefully.
No, it wasn't. But we basically didn't realise it had gone until we turned up, which is probably a testament.
Where's your bike?
Yeah. Has anyone seen the bike? Yeah. It was basically how it happened. So that, getting to the start line and getting across the finish line is actually the ambition.
Yeah.
So, we'll report back.
Well, I'll be stalking you on Strava now. See how many miles you're doing per week.
To see if I'm actually doing anything.
Where can people reach out? Are you happy to? What you on? Bebo, Twitter, LinkedIn, MySpace, TikTok,
I don't even
Snapchat.
know what a Bebo is. Does that mean I'm young or I'm old?
You're not that much older than me, I don't think.
Or maybe it means I'm slightly cooler. I don't know. I don't
Probably
know what
cooler.
Bebo
We'll go with that.
Oh, so for work stuff, probably just go straight to LinkedIn. All my contact details are there. I'm there. Or you can just go to everydaychange.com and all the information is there.
Right.
But I'm relatively easy to stalk because I'm not that subtle. Go easy. Whatever change you're about to start, just go easy. It'll be a damn sight better.
Go easy. I think we'll end on that. Thank you very much.
No worries.
And look forward to seeing what's next in Ibiza. I'll come with my factor 50. Cheers.